Of the Gilroy Unified School District Board of Education. We're happy to have some people that we're going to recognize this evening, but we are going to start with maybe both of our student reps could come up. That would be great.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce them
Sure.
and say which school they're from.
Because then one of them will help us in leading the pledge. And one of the faces is very familiar to us. Okay, would you like to introduce them?
That's what I want. Okay. Yeah. We have 3 student board reps this year, and I did meet with them recently. We had a good meeting, some good questions. They were accompanied by their activities directors, which I really appreciated. And I try to give them a little orientation. Of course, Sloan is a pro at this, as she's now serving her 2nd year as student board rep from Gilroy High. So Sloan Pace, welcome back. We would really appreciate it. And then we have a new Christopher High student board member rep, and that's Sarah Starks. So we're really excited to have them. And as you know, they rotate on our schedule. We've given them the schedule through December. And after we have our organizational meeting, then we'll let them know what the schedule is for the second half of the year. And at every meeting, one of them will be reporting to you about their own school site and another site that we've assigned to them. So we asked them to come tonight to be introduced and to do the pledge.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Yes. So do you two want to come up?
Sure.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me here. I'm really excited about having this position. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thanks.
I'm a junior.
Okay, welcome, Sarah. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks. And Sloan's a senior.
Yes.
Great. Thank you both.
Thanks for coming. Yes.
Next is the recognition.
Okay, we're going to start with a recognition of one of our principals, Tammy Espinosa, who is principal at Luigi Aprea.
So Tammy, why don't you come up? Tammy Espinosa is principal at Luigi Aprea Elementary School. I think you all know that. And she's starting her 2nd year and just did an outstanding job as a first-year principal in our district. She came to us with a lot of experience. In fact, right before she came to us, she was a coach of principals in her prior district. So we were just so blessed that she decided to return to Gilroy. I'm sure her mom feels the same way. I just heard that her mom is here. So it's great that we're able to recognize her tonight. So we're going to recognize Tammy for receiving the Rebecca Children's Services Kimberly Ordaz Award. The award is in memory, as all of you know, of one of our very own special teachers who was in the district for many years, and we lost several years ago. And it was really we were very sorry about Kim's passing, but there's several things that have honored her years of service, including a memorial at the campus and this award, which is wonderful. The award is based on an array of criteria that includes demonstration of leadership characteristics, contributions to the success of others, a willingness to serve and assist others in their own personal and professional development. That's one category. Second is demonstration of a commitment to the community by sharing time and talent in ways that benefit the community or individuals within it. And lastly, demonstration of exceptional personal commitment to civic endeavors outside of professional obligations. So specific to Tammy, the reason Rebecca Children's Center Services decided to give her this award, and I'm going to read it to you. Tammy Espinosa has been a lifelong educator and advocate for children. As a teacher in Fresno and East Palo Alto, she was on several leadership teams, both at the site and district level. As a result of her work, she was asked to coach other teachers in the district and throughout California. Later, as the principal in East Palo Alto, Tammy transformed a struggling school, making it the highest-ranking public elementary school in the district. Tammy has served on the English Language Advisory Committee for the State Board of Education and has also served for 10 years on the board of the East Palo Alto Kids Foundation, 4 of which were as board president. Tammy grew up in Gilroy and has degrees from Wesleyan University and Fresno State University. She believes in the power of teaching and learning and is always inspired by the educators around her. She's currently a foster parent to 2 incredibly loving and energetic children, and they hope to soon become a forever family. We're extremely proud of you, Tammy, and so glad that you joined our district. You've just been an amazing addition to our elementary principal team, to our management team, and we're just so proud of you for this remarkable accomplishment after just 1 year of receiving the Rebecca Children's Services Kimberly Ordaz Award. So on behalf of the board and the district, I'll read the plaque. The Gilroy Unified School District Board of Education proudly recognizes Tammy Espinoza, recipient of the Rebecca Children's Services Kimberly Ordaz Award. Thank you for your commitment to education, advocacy, and the community. Your dedication to teaching, learning, and mentoring has made a lasting impact on students, staff, and the community. Presented this 7th day of September 2017. So congratulations, Tammy. Very proud of you. And we always do a picture. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Tammy, aren't they, one of them's attending one of our schools, right?
Third grader record.
Yeah.
Go Cougars.
Next, we have approval of the agenda, but I would like to suggest that we change item 7 with item 8. So item 8 has to do with our facilities, and we're also going to have a report tonight. So out of respect for our presenters that drive quite a distance to get here, and it takes a little while to do this presentation, I'd like to have that precede our basically in-house business.
I would move for approval with that change.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. Do we have any public comment tonight? No, so I won't read all of that. So we're on item 4E, report of action taken in closed session. So it's my responsibility to report out what we discussed and decided on and voted on in closed session, or what we discussed to bring out here. And actually, we have 2 stipulated expulsion agreements that we will vote on out here. And so I will entertain a motion to vote on these 2 stipulated expulsions.
I would move approval to stipulate expulsion agreement in case 2017-17 and in case 2017-20.
Okay. So I do have a motion and a second on these. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, both of those motions do pass. Thank you. Okay. And I believe that's all we have to report on from closed session this evening. Next, we have our superintendent's report to the board.
Okay.
If I may interrupt, did we do public comment?
We have.
I asked if there was any.
Okay, I'm sorry.
have-
There's none.
Sorry. She asked Gina,
Yeah, I did.
so we don't need a translator. Unless, have we asked, do we need a translator?
We
didn't
haven't,
ask.
but I don't think we do. We need. ¿Hay alguien aquí que necesite intérprete? No, I, Mari.
Okay, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, before I begin my normal report, I want to introduce to the board and the public two appointments that were approved this evening in closed session. I'm very excited to be able to make these announcements. So first, I'll introduce our new program administrator for special programs in our district. So I'd like to ask Lisa Larona to stand so I can say a few words about Lisa. Welcome to our district, Lisa. So Lisa's basically replacing Sylvia Solis. You know, we have this program, this position encompasses a lot of different job responsibilities in the Ed Services Department. But we're really excited to have her joining us. Most recently, she's been a very successful principal. I heard from her prior superintendent that she, in Union Elementary, where she took one of the lowest performing schools to one of the highest performing schools over a 6-year period. So we're really excited to have Lisa join us and take over these job responsibilities. Unfortunately, during this time when we've had a vacancy, we had our prior person who filled this position helping us out a couple days a week and probably can help with the transition to Lisa taking over the position. So welcome. We're really excited about having you join us. Thank you. And then, as you all know, we have a vacancy as our fiscal services controller, which normally you would see Mariana here tonight for that part of the program and agenda. So we're really excited to announce that Anna O'Connor is our new fiscal services controller. And she comes to us not from public education, but from a totally different arena where she worked for, I think it was called the Presentation Center. For many years and kind of worked her way up through the organization, became the executive director of the center and handled numerous responsibilities from personnel to facilities to food to primarily of our interest, the budget and finances. So she's coming to us with lots of experience and we're really excited to have her join our team. And this position handles a lot of facility funds and obviously it's important for her to hear what we're doing in that area tonight, and we have a meeting tomorrow, which I doubt if are you coming to the facilities committee? Yes, great. So that'd be a great way to introduce you to the facilities program. But we're really excited to have you join us, and I'm sure you've noticed the resemblance. There's a slight resemblance with Maria. You don't see it? Anyway, welcome, Anna. We're really excited to have you. And she actually started this week, so very excited to have you on our team. Congratulations. Great. Now I'll give you my report. So I'm sure you all noticed and heard about the Ballybunion Eagle Ridge fire. And I just want to commend Cheryl Galloway as usual. She just jumped in there immediately. It started Saturday afternoon, evening, and some of us who live near it were getting to see it very close and firsthand. It was a pretty scary, actually, experience to have a fire so close to our homes. But I have to just say, Cheryl jumped in there, was immediately giving me and Alvaro updates, asking for direction, and coordinating with the city, fire department, CAL FIRE. They did an incredible job. I just am so impressed with the response. You know, we had a fire a few years ago that was long ways from us, but we watched, you know, them set up at Christmas Hill and go take care of a fire a long ways from us, and it didn't feel that real. But this felt really real. James and Sloan, I'm sure, even more so, because it was so close to their house. But our local fire department, police department, CAL FIRE, and all the companies that came from all over the state just did an incredible job. And I was so happy to hear that Los Animas students were, I think others also wrote thank you notes to the fire crews, and they just did an amazing job. Today the camp was ended around noon, so they're done. I think our local fire department is working on some fire lines, but pretty much everybody else has gone. It worked really well, and I want to thank Maria again and her staff. They're pros at this now. unfortunately, having big trucks and a lot of equipment driving through Solorzano, and maintenance and operation staff that were out there helping control, manage the traffic, and GPD that had a couple officers out on club and helping with the traffic, and then our SROs who were making sure kids didn't go through Silva's Crossing. It was just amazing coordinated effort. I'm really thankful to everybody. I'm proud of everyone. I started my fall site visits, as you know, so visited Brownell on August 29th, Solorzano on the 30th, and today South Valley. And a couple things just jumped right out at me, as it's great to see everybody using StudySync. So that's our new middle school adoption for English language arts. Everybody was using it. I mean, it was amazing today at South Valley, literally walking from one room to the next, seeing them on the, pretty much the same page. So that was great. And although this isn't our first year with CPM, I saw a lot of teachers using CPM with staff at all three of the sites. So it's really nice to see the materials in the hands of teachers and students. And I know they've received professional development on how to use those materials. So really nice to see that. For the beginning of the school year, things are running so smoothly at our middle schools. Very, very impressed. We do have a couple openings still at Brownell, and despite that, and it's in math, the substitutes that are in there are doing a great job. So, and at South Valley, same thing. A couple of substitutes are really doing a great job. So I think things are going really well at our middle schools, and I commend the administration and the staff. Attended, as I do every month, a lot of meetings, but a couple of unique ones this month. I'd already gone to the Gilroy High Coaches meeting. I spoke to you about that at our last meeting. So this month I went to the Christopher High Coaches meeting and got to meet our new athletic trainer. Very excited about him coming on. And from our prior presentations and reports from me, we're moving in the direction of athletic trainers that start about middle of the day, teach a couple of sports medicine classes, and then are available to all sports, not just football or wrestling, all sports until about 8 at night. So DH is what they call him. I can't remember what the initials stand for, but anyway, he's the new athletic trainer. And it was great to hear coaches say, you mean I can actually call you to come over and help me with volleyball or tennis? So this is the direction we're moving as a district. I think it's a really positive direction. Kathleen Rose, the president at Gavilan, does a first day walk. She started it last year, and I'm guessing that other people didn't get the invitation because I was the only person who showed up. So I got a private walk with the president of Gavilan, and it was very helpful. I learn things every time I go out there, but they showcase new programs the first day, and it was great to be able to have one-on-one attention. We had a meeting with the Tech Academy. We now have 2 schools working with the Tech Academy, Brownell and El Roble. It's very exciting, this partnership, and they talked about potential ways to expand the partnership. So we're going to be pursuing that. A meeting will be coming up with, there were about 10 of us in the room at the next meeting. There'll be a few people kind of working on this idea to expand our partnership. As I mentioned, the student board rep meeting. And then I went last Thursday to the superintendent's retreat. I didn't go back Friday because I had too much to do here, and it was only a half a day, and it takes me 2 hours to get there. So I was being very practical Friday, came back and did a bunch of stuff I needed to do here. But it's always great at the retreat, even if I don't find that the workshops are that relevant to what I'm doing, to have the chance to talk to my colleagues and share what we're doing and pick their brains. So it was great. As you know, our back-to-school nights are happening right now, August 21st through September 6th, or just happened, at elementary and middle schools, and I know many of you attended those, and we, as a cabinet, we're all assigned to 2 or 3 schools, so we were out visiting. We have a bunch coming up. I think they're going to be listed on the screen, yes? So these are the ones coming up, and if you're assigned to one of those schools, it'd be good for you to attend, and same with us. And then, as was mentioned, we have the County Office Teacher Recognition Celebration on September 14th. A number of us will be going to that to honor Kathy Silva, who is so deserving of this recognition. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. The consent agenda is very short this week.
Move approval?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. So we're going to move on to 8, and 8A is the approval of bridging document by WLC Architects for the design-build construction method for the new elementary school. And I see that Jeananne and Leo are both here. Glad you made it through the traffic, and here you are.
And Sarah, I'm going to let you know you don't have to stay any longer tonight. It was just to introduce you. So when you come back, though, you can stay a lot longer when it's your night. But I know it's the beginning of the year, you probably have a lot to do.
A little bit, but it's good to get a feel for how it's all
Sure.
going.
Great, good.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks. So you can leave anytime you want.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
So you don't want to hear the secret stuff we're going to talk about?
Yeah, right. Thanks. Bye. Thanks, Lisa.
so Jim Bombachi will be introducing Leo and Jeananne, who actually were in a meeting with us for a couple of hours on Tuesday. And they're bringing a lot of information to the rest of the board about the new elementary school. So,
Thank you very much. Good evening, Dr. Flores, President Midgard, and esteemed board members. I'd like to introduce Leo and Jeananne. They are the representatives from WLC Architects and have been working very closely with us over the last 4 or so months on the bridging document for the new design-build construction method for the new elementary school. So they have a really nice presentation. We've seen it, and it's going to be really exciting. So I'll turn it over to them and let them give you the updates.
Well, thank you, Jim. Been here before in front of you guys. I'm happy to be here again. This evening, we're here, as you know, for the approval of the final design documents that will be put together to go out to RFP for your design build process. We're going to talk a little bit about that through this presentation. So we have a couple of sections of this presentation. We're going to talk about where we've been, what's coming next, and where we are right now with the design components, essentially, as we go through this. So Jeananne and I are going to tag team this as we've done in the past. So we'll move right into it. So where are we right now? Right now, we're in this phase of bridging documents. As we've explained previously, you've decided to do these bridging documents as part of your process to go to design build. Once this process is complete, you're going to go out to request for proposal to design build teams, which will include contractor and an architect and a full and engineers and a full team that will give you a guaranteed maximum price in order to build the new school. They will use the documents that we have prepared and are providing for them to generate that price, as well as any design changes they will do as part of their process of doing it. The way this works is that essentially for 100% of the fee, about approximately 10% of the work is being done by us of the whole process. We're doing that and doing the schematic drawings. The rest of the process is going to be done by the design build team in completing the project. They will take the project to DSA. They will get the approvals from DSA, and then they will build the project for you. So they're doing a complete turnkey process for this. After the RFP process, there's going to be the bidding phase, as it's called here, in which they will come up with their prices, and you will meet with them, interview them, have negotiations with them, come up with a price that works for all of you, and then you'll move forward with them, and they will then go into design development, construction documents, into DSA, and then into construction to build the project. That's the phases that are coming up next as we move forward. Okay. And this is where we started. You have this blank site there, your nice little triangle, that as we joked about, if the fire had gotten there, we could have cleared the site and would have saved some money. But we wouldn't want that to happen anyway, though, because if you get there, you're going to have to go through some houses to get there. But this is your site, right next to the middle school, with the houses across the street. And so, as we move forward, and this is where we were through the steps. This is the process we took to get here tonight. These are the meetings that we've had, both with the site committee, with the small group meetings internally with our design team, our engineers, and all of our other consultants, and then meetings with all of you to go over, to keep you abreast as we went through this process. All of these boxes are filled in. As we've brought to you this before, these boxes have been empty, and we're now right here at the final presentation of the drawings. And tonight you'll see some new drawings, some new renderings you haven't seen before as part of it. That's the one new element. You'll see it towards the end of the presentation. Uh-oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. This is the program that we've come up with, that not we came up with, we collectively came up with as part of the design process. Oops, hit the wrong button. Back up. Oh, too far. I forgot there's a little delay here. Yeah, there we go. You got a lot of little friends there, huh?
Just one.
So this is the program for the new school, which we've gone over with you previously. This lists the number of classrooms, the number of rooms, the area of each of the rooms, and the total square footage for them. We are at 800 students, and with approximately 133 students per grade level as part of this. This program includes all the auxiliary spaces and all the other spaces, the innovation lab, the flex labs, the SDC classrooms, all of that is included in the program that was put together.
Excuse me, in that first slide, is there a typo in numbers? Because it says 800 students, and then it says, has a much lower number.
Wait a second. I don't want to click it again and then it jumps to.
Yeah, it says 643 at grades 1 to 5.
That's without kindergarten.
Oh, yeah, that's grades 1 through 5.
Okay, so there's 157 students in kindergarten, we project?
There's 6 classrooms.
At 24. Yep.
Seems like a lot of kindergartners.
Yeah, that's if one day when we get to 800. Like right now, I think Los Animas has 5, Paul, is that right? Kindergartens?
Yes.
So they're not at 800 yet, and they have 5. So if we were at 800, they'd have 6 kindergartens. Yeah. Right. So remember, we're planning for a big school, so that's someday if the district's much bigger, we've got the capacity.
Okay.
57 with those 140.
And these are the additional spaces, the offices that are as part of the administrative area, and the support spaces for the staff. I'd like to get to, and then the library and multi-use center. We'll talk a little bit more about these spaces, obviously, when we get into the design. But these spaces are designed to be equivalent to or larger than your existing classrooms and multi-purpose and library that you have in your other campuses. And I want to get to this, and this is the original master plan for the school at 700 students. And through the design process, it was decided that you want to go to 800 students so that you could build a school that you could grow into as opposed to building a school that you grow out of, and which I think is a wise choice. And so that's why these are the changes that have occurred in terms of the master plan and the number of students, and the number of teaching stations, the area, the square footages, all shifted in order to accommodate the 800 students. With the key being, in terms of library, as we said, it matches the other district spaces, as well as with the elementary school, the Rucker, rather, elementary school, the multi-use building being equivalent in size. But these plus differential are the differential between 700 student school and 800 student school. Shows the difference that they've moved up in that regard. You can add anything if you see something I missed.
Oh, I think the only thing that's, that maybe you're not as familiar with is this little asterisk that says based on CDE recommendations. So the master plan, the CDE is California Department of Education, and they have a sort of state minimum sizes that they recommend. And the master plan just basically worked off of those. So that's why you see such a large differential in the library and the multi-use building. We're looking more for parity with the rest of the district facilities as opposed to the sort of state minimum standard by guideline.
I have a question between the
Yeah.
master plan and the proposed program. Do you anticipate having more students in each classroom under the proposed program?
Can you go back to, not precisely. We've shown, one more. If, on the very first one, you can see here, there are those two columns out to the right. And if we were to load the school at your district loading standard, you would get to 800 students. If we were, I'm sorry, you would get to 838.
Right here.
There's so many ways to look at loading the classrooms, but first I would like to say the master plan did not use your district loading. They used some more generic numbers to come up with their 700 student count. We went back and looked at it in two different ways. If we were to say let's say we looked at it and said, okay, every year you're gonna have 133 students per grade, and we apply your district loading standards, you would have had, I think, an additional 6 classroom spaces required. Because you wouldn't be accounting for shifts in population between grade levels as they tend to shift. And you would be saying, even if we only have 13 third graders, they're just gonna be in a class of 13 students that year. So what we went back and did we discussed it with Alvaro and Jim and with the design committee, was a way of sort of trying to split the difference and come up with a sensible solution. And so what we ended up looking at was a weighted average. So if your district standard, I think it's written here, for grade 1 in kinder is 24 students per grade, 26 at grade 2, 28 at grade 3. So we weighted the loading of the rooms with the anticipated number of students, and we were able to say, well, if you had 133 students every year in your grade, that's how many would be in each classroom to make 800. Or, if you loaded each room per the district loading standard, that's how many students you could fit in your school.
You could actually get 838
Right.
students at the district loading standard.
Right. So you can sort of see where all the complexity in this calculation came in, but I think with direction from the district, we went towards this way of looking at it.
So we're using this essentially as our guide. That's why we're at 800. We say it's an 800 student school, but technically it could hold more than 800 students. Yeah, sure.
So I just want to add something, because Los Animas, if you remember, that two-story structure was an afterthought. So we clearly know that at the outset of building a new facility, we wanted to, as Leo mentioned, build it up to its capacity, knowing that it's going to be surrounded by 2,000 homes when it's economically feasible to do so. And you only get one chance to do it right. So that the facility, when you build it up to 800, is a complete facility, so that we wouldn't have to add a portable or something like that, of that nature, that I know you would all hate to see.
Which we ended up
And
doing at Los Animas.
we did. That two-story structure was
Plus
rushed.
3 portables.
Right, and so it was rushed and has a two-story and the portables that are housed for special ed, that are used for special ed. So we just didn't want to do that. Las Animas opened over 800 before shifts happened, and so they're now below 800. But today, well, I mean, not today, but August 17th, they opened over 800. And it became a little bit larger than that before we shifted some things around, and now they're below that. And that's before the development really hits us. So we know we're going to get pressed right in that location. This is exactly what we need, a new school. And again, we just wanted to build it up to its full capacity when it was most economically to do so. Yep.
And Los Animas is going to be full from now on, because we've got Alexander Place coming. So we're going to have to shift some of the kids. You know, I don't want to talk about boundaries right now, but we're going to have to shift the boundaries to push some of those kids to the new schools. So eventually that new school will be at 800. It may not open at 800, probably won't, but it'll eventually be at 800 once, because we've got all these new kids coming in that area.
Okay. So that's the loading and the number of students we're anticipating. So in terms of the design, wanted to do this slide again. You've seen this before, but just as this is just part of this presentation, talk about the influences that push the design to the way it is and how we organize the site. Obviously, the sun is a big deal out here. There's a lot of sunshine. And so everything we're doing in terms of the project is designed around how do we maximize the use of the sun for solar and minimize the impact of the sun in terms of the heat gain that we get in the classrooms. So the building's designed to accommodate that. And you'll see that as when Janan talks a little bit more about the actual design. But in terms of zoning and organization, we talk about access first. As you know, Santa Teresa is here. We have an easement along this side. And this is obviously a major boulevard that's even going to become a larger boulevard. So essentially, there's really no access to the school site on this side. We have the Uvas Creek on this side with just the walking path. So again, there's no access to the site on this side, and the site only has 3 sides. So
There's no vehicular access.
no
There is
vehicular access. Vehicular access, yes. Thanks for the clarification. No vehicular access on these 2 sides. So you're forced to have any vehicular access on Club Drive, as well as that. And then in terms of so that tells you that essentially your public face for the campus is going to be on Club Drive, because that's where your administration has to be, because that's where the vehicles are going to come in, that's where the drop-off is going to occur, and all those things are going to occur along Club Drive. So you have to look at the parking here, the parking over here, the primary area for their buildings, the admin building, the classroom buildings would be in this zone. You have a play area zone directly behind the classroom, and then you have the fields towards the back. And then by the shape of the site as well, the site obviously narrows down to a very narrow point here. So this is the largest area you have in which to build on the site. So the site itself forces you to do certain things just based on, A, the configuration of the site, and B, the site conditions that are all around it. Yes, sir?
Will there be access for emergency vehicles to the play and field?
Yes, definitely. And you'll see that when we go show you the actual plans. We'll talk about that, yeah. So that's how we end up organizing the site in terms of parking areas in the front, building area, play area, and fields. And then these are just some visual access points along the sides of that, so you can see what those elements look like. So again, I mentioned the sun, heat, and views. And views I didn't talk about, but the views into this area was an important element of the design as well. You know, we have a natural landscape there that we want to take advantage of as part of it. And you'll see in the design where we try to make that a conscious element that you'll be able to see the views into that area as well. Then we went through a whole series of site plan options once we looked at that organization. So all of these have the same basic organizational strategy with the parking along the front, building areas behind it, and the field and play area behind it, but they're all kind of structured a little differently. We went through a series of concepts about how should the buildings be laid out. You know, we've got the finger plans, we've got the sort of the step plans, you've got the courtyard plans, you've got a whole different array of ways that the buildings can be organized. And through the process of meetings and discussions with the site committee, it was determined that the courtyard plan was the preferred method of how to organize the site. And these are some of the iterations we went through in looking at how do you organize the courtyards to make it work. So, and then a couple of things came out as primary elements, and as you see in the blue, was number one, the central courtyard. Number two was that the building should be two-story, particularly the classroom building, in order to maximize the amount of open space you're going to end up with on the site, to actually zone the public and private spaces, have great indoor-outdoor relationship, and vehicular access was critically important for both drop-off and pickup, as well as just for parking and access. But, let's see. So I'm going to take longer. You want to talk about this?
Sure.
There we go.
Well, we've spent a great deal of time with our site committees and our small groups discussing how our teachers teaching at Gilroy, how do they teach best, and how can the buildings best support the way they would like to teach. So, you know, we did a variety of exercises when we brought imagery and examples of other teaching methodologies. We led discussions about different ways that schools could organize themselves. And I think through it all, you know, some key elements started to emerge as a unifying ideas that were shared by really the bulk of the groups that we spoke with. I think hallways were, interestingly, were very valued by the Gilroy teaching community for what they can add to the classroom environment. And there was a consciousness about a well-designed hallway versus just a passageway from one spot in the building to the other. And so we started looking more in detail at some well-designed hallways, including some of the ones that you already have here in Gilroy, to try to incorporate that component of circulation. The teachers and the staff seem to feel most comfortable organizing by grade level, as opposed to maybe small school communities or pods with different age groups. So we focused on trying to create a building environment that would support the grade level structure for teachers. And the attempt to augment, you know, we always start this process with, well, what kind of classroom could we do? How do we see beyond the box, the 960 square foot box that we always have classes in? And one of the resultants of that is that we're trying to augment that box with some breakout spaces and other support areas so that the classroom is actually larger than your little box. And these images are some examples that I think stood out predominantly in the minds of us as we had these conversations, and I think that they struck a chord with our various design committee members. And we've tried to incorporate some ideas into our design from these. Other components, smart classrooms, integrated technology, the future of technology in classrooms, as opposed to just how our teachers using it today. The near future, the potential to augment, you know, the Chrome carts, maybe even to have a, you know, Chrome cart per every student has a Chromebook, every classroom has a Chrome cart, versus, you know, sharing, to having fully integrated technology within the classroom. And the need for the spaces within the school to be flexible to accommodate those changing technological advancements. We looked at the labs. We actually spent a lot of time talking about lab use and the best ways that the labs could be designed and configured for the schools. And at the end of the day, I think we really came to conclude that we needed a wet, messy space and a dry, electronics-oriented space. I think the sort of science art curriculum, teachers identified strongly with being in a lab with sinks and a place to have stations to set up experiments and possibly have a connection with the outdoors and the science of observation outside. And then for the dry lab, which you might have thought of as a computer lab in many years past, or even prior to today, but as we move away from, you know, counter-mounted hard computers and into more portable devices. What does that mean to the lab space? Well, maybe you're going to have a 3D printer or a virtual reality station, and you want wall space or open space to be able to interact around those things. You need a space to store your Chromebook. You need a space to store your valuable electronics. Maybe you're going to write a grant for something. So we tried to envision the way that lab might work as well.
And the flexibility of those spaces is also important because although it's not ideal, those spaces could become classroom spaces in the future if needed. They're currently not, so that's a kind of space that now is used by multiple teachers for multiple uses, which if necessary could become a designated space at some future point in time if you end up getting over-enrolled more than you had planned on. And that's why the flexibility of the spaces is so important in terms of how they're laid out. And although we didn't talk a lot about it, the bottom slide with the furniture, that's become an integral part of designing spaces now. So your furniture that you ultimately select for this new school is going to be very important, and it's something you need to look at very closely and not just leave it to someone just to order some furniture. It needs to be integrated very closely with the design process.
I think Mary Bell put it very nicely at one point when she said, I'd like to see the desks that have backpack storage underneath so that we can have the wall space open to have learning on the wall. And, our future electronics might need a big white wall space so that we can operate smart technology in the classroom. So decisions like that could have a strong impact. Then you don't need to build a big casework wall for all your for your backpacks and the hooks and everything. So that there are some very connected decisions there. The next step, so after we got a sense of the way everybody felt comfortable that the site would function best from an organizational standpoint and how the teaching might occur, we started to propose back some site plans and some ideas for how the buildings might look conceptually. I think some of the standout features from our discussions from those various exercises were we wanted to try to break down the large two-story masses into smaller, more manageable pieces so that they don't, small young students don't feel confronted by imposing unfriendly facades when they come to school. I think it's even in your master plan that the schools should feel welcoming and community and home-like, I believe was the description for the elementary schools. We looked with some scrutiny at how the roof could be best utilized, as Leo mentioned before, and concurrently that the roof should be a design feature that expresses that its function. So we all can see and appreciate and understand that the building is really working for you. It's not just there to consume your resources. Critically, we looked at having shade on all the south and west facades. Leo and I actually drove around Solorzano one afternoon at around 4:30 and looked at the way the sun angles were hitting the windows to see if, at what time of day does the sun start to get low enough that it creeps up on the west side and comes straight through the windows. So I think Solorzano is a good example of an overhang that wasn't quite deep enough to completely shade the window in the afternoon. The district set us with a goal of a net zero campus. You probably aren't all aware, but coming down the pipe from the state will be mandatory requirements to have net zero facilities in your portfolio. And looking ahead at there are ways to put your building on the path to net zero, even if it maybe doesn't meet net zero the day you open. So making really good planning decisions that would enable this building to be a net zero building is one of our primary drivers. And then in summation, I would say sustainability, conservation, educational program, and safety considerations were the 4 primary guidelines that drove all of our decisions about the site planning efforts that we went through.
And these are just examples of some of the looks that we took at how to create a courtyard scheme. So, and we reviewed all these with the site committee, asked them the pieces they liked, the pieces they didn't like, came back and did another round of them, and we ended up with a plan, as you'll see in a minute, that kept the courtyard scheme, but kind of combined a lot of the elements you see in all of these plans into one newer plan for you. And these are the features that Janan was just talking about. Just, again, some photographs that kind of highlight what some of those elements are. Outdoor classroom spaces, central courtyard kind of spaces, the amphitheater, how some amphitheaters might look. This is sort of an observation deck area looking over an area very similar to what we have at our site. And then using our landscape architect say, let's really use it as an observation deck. Let the kids kind of view the natural landscape and be part of that natural landscape. And then, of course, play areas and how they're developed around. So these are just some imagery for all of those kinds of things that are going to be part of this project. And so this is the actual design that we developed, beginning with the site plan organization, which is essentially the same original site plan that you saw before, just with the elements a little more defined now. In terms of, again, the parking is essentially the same area, some parking along Santa Teresa and along the front along Club. We have the admin library in this area. Kindergarten was viewed to be a separate element on the campus, to have its own separate identity, but of course be connected to the rest of the school campus. The main classroom wing is here, and multi-purpose ring and library is in this area, with some bioretention areas. As you know now, bioretention is any water runoff off your roofs or off your play fields or anything like that has to be either mechanically or naturally cleaned before it can go into the storm drain system, and you have to do that on site. So you either put a mechanical system in, or you do it naturally, which is the better way to do it, which is the way we do it. And you do that naturally by creating these bioretention areas where water filters essentially, the site water filters through that area before it goes into the pipes that go into the storm system. And so that's a requirement now that you do all that. Because particularly off of all hard area, all hardscape like your asphalt areas, and then you have your play fields in back.
So here is our proposed site plan. You'll see, I think starting from outside in, you'll see our primary access off of Club. There's an indication of a potential roundabout solution at this intersection. It's a discussion that's ongoing and will be ongoing with your design build team and the city and the traffic engineers and consultants that are doing studies about the impacts of this school on the surrounding traffic and the impacts of the surrounding traffic on this school. But essentially off of, what we're showing is off of this intersection, the primary drop-off. There are two zones for drop-off. There's a park and walk-in, which is the kindergarten, and there's a sort of U-shaped path for vehicles with, I wrote the number of parking spots, but I can't read it from here. I think it's something around 60 or 50 parking spots in this area, subject to adjustment. And then there's a longer drop-off along the roadside, which is separated from the parking by a wide sidewalk. I've shown a 10-foot sidewalk, and it'll probably have a fence line to prevent students from running across the parking lot. But the idea is everybody's going to funnel into this main entry plaza here and proceed through the entry gate all together, at one time. It's a very large, wide, grand entry gate, so you shouldn't have any congestion or anything like that. There's also a bus drop-off, which occurs in this other parking lot here, where students are actually greeted by staff at the school and escorted in as well. But they're also similarly funneled through the main entry plaza. Once, this is a larger parking lot, and it has nearly 100 spaces in it. And then, like I said, this one has about 50. So we've got at least 150 spaces shown currently. The drop-off lane here is nearly 500 feet long. While these components may shift as the design iterates, I think that the basic criteria of 150 spaces and about 500 linear feet of drop-off are pretty established at this point. So those will be the guidelines for any adjustments moving forward.
How do those numbers compare to our other elementary schools?
That is a good question.
There's a wide variety with your other elementary schools, primarily
yes.
based on the size of the school site and the surroundings. So you have some that have a lot of parking, you have some with very little parking. So, but in terms of, and I think we related this to the master plan. Your master plan had, I believe, about 125 spaces were allocated for this site as part of the master plan. So we're over that in terms of the number of parking spaces we have.
Sure. So do we have, is 150?
It's a lot of parking by most metrics.
Yeah, we had the discussion with the principal, who was, I guess the lady got the award earlier, because she was on the sign committee. They felt around 75 to 100 was going to be pretty adequate
75.
Okay.
to take care of the staff and drop off and parents and all that sort of thing that needs to come in, yeah.
Along those same lines, I mean, I think that's a great question. And the contrast I would like to look at is the last school we built, Los Animas, where parking and drop-off are a nightmare. And that's the last school we built. So it'd be nice just to have a benchmark, just to make us feel better about what we're doing, that it has something more than we have at Los Animas.
You know what's happening at Los Animas? You know what they have?
We can follow up and report that I know Los Animas doesn't have 150 and this kind of 500-foot long drop-off, so we'll follow up and give you the actual numbers.
I think it's also very important to understand that this site is very impacted from a vehicular access standpoint. So while many of your other sites have 2 or 3 or 4 open edges, we only have this one to work
Right.
with. So yeah, I mean, you have a very severe setback on that side, and then you have nothing up here. So I like to think that, you know, we've allocated now here probably 25% of your site is now nearly parking and drop-off. And you get to a certain point where you're building a school and not a parking lot, and you don't want to sacrifice other components of your school for your parking either. So I think the balance here, we've tried to strike a balance for that.
Sure, but what happens at our other elementary schools is there's street parking.
Right.
Rather than,
Yes.
and that isn't the case here.
No, you won't have it
So
here.
we accommodate more.
Right.
The other thing that worries me, and I think we had the same conversation before, is now we have no street parking, and everybody's in a parking lot, and they have to get in and out at that two areas.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people to funnel in and
I
out.
wouldn't say there's not any street parking because Solorzano parents park up and down Club Drive
So
on
there
both
is,
sides
so when
all
this
the
opens,
time.
there is going to be parking along there?
Yeah, we're gonna stage the two, so
Right.
we'll still have some parking on Club, and they park all the way back to the light sometimes.
That's true, I've seen that.
Okay, I just assumed that when this school opened, that there would be no
Still a
street parking available, that
Well,
the
we
city
haven't
would
even-
say
We
no.
haven't even talked to the city, but currently, in the morning, having been there for 3 years, and James, you can jump in, there's a lot of street parking on Club Drive
Mhm.
all the time, in the morning and afternoon.
Right,
At back-to-school night yesterday for Solorzano,
right.
you know, the campus took most of it, and then the rest of us who were a little late were parked down Club, both sides. And that's, you know, 4 times a year or whatever.
Sure.
Unless the city tells us
And at some point, that residential street heading south will come in, so that will add a little on-street parking. And across the bridge, Third Street, there are some good options there.
We designed this, the parking and the entries and exits, from all the good things that are happening at other schools. One of the best drop-offs, in my opinion, is Rucker Elementary School. Rucker Elementary School drops off 99.9% of their students. So that's one of the best case scenarios. One of the things that makes that very attractive is it has multiple places to drop off, but one of them is a very, very long drop-off area. As you enter the school, it's about, probably about 200 feet long. And the kids drop off, the parents stop, the kids get out of the car, and then the parents go, and then there's a bypass. Okay. This right here, as you come through here, this entire length right here is a drop-off. So we're gonna be getting people coming in and dropping off along there, oh, I did it. Back me up. We've gone to the show, never mind. Don't, whatever, I was trying to get the green one.
Just hit the green one up.
Okay, yeah, I got it. Okay, and then inside here is another drop-off area that can be dropped off, and this area here is where the people will be parking to take their kids into the school.
Right.
This whole area on this side is all staff parking. There's way more parking at this school than almost any of the elementary schools, and it's very, there's absolutely no reason, based on our data and the data that was generated from the traffic study, to have on-street parking. It's not going to be necessary. Now, having said that, if we have a large play, that we're building this to have large plays, we have Solisano across the street, and we have double the parking for any given. The only thing that could ever happen is the perfect storm where you have the same thing at both sides, but that can be, that just needs to be figured out. So as far as parking, nobody will ever be parking on the street. We've got the giant drop-off. We have the huge amount of parking. We have 2 places to park. We've given this a real great deal of thought, and I think we've come up with the best solution that we can come up with.
Well, I don't agree with that statement at all. You need to go to our schools during, that's Solisano, for instance, during drop-off and pickup.
Well, one of the things going to help Solisano is the roundabout to get them out of there, because that's one of the stop spots. You've got a 4-way stop there, and that's killing the traffic.
And the other street, Valley Bunyan, hopefully will be
Well,
done by then.
That'll go through, and then they'll be able to exit out the back, and this will clear itself up. But this on-campus, this single campus will be probably one of the better regulated drop-off and parking areas that we have, because we took the best from all of them. We took the best that we know.
I'm just going to interject that I think we're about 35, 40 minutes into this presentation. So, and we had allocated 40 minutes, so.
Okay.
So we'll go faster.
BC has a question.
I do have one question.
Sure.
This is an elementary school. Do we really need a field and track? Can we take away from that, push some of it back to get more parking?
I think that, the site committee was interested in having a good field area with a track to go around it for the school to use. Now, does it have to be a full-size soccer field? No. There wasn't a lot of agreement about what exactly that field should be, but we're allocating the space for the soccer field. Can we push it back? You could probably, as you develop it, push it back a little. I'm not sure how much more that's gonna buy you. You don't get any more length out the front. You just get, potentially more rows of parking. But we already have a lot of parking. I think the bigger concern is the drop-off length.
And one of the things that came up from the committee, not to belabor this, was they want to have to maximize the amount of actual field and play area for the kids.
Right.
And that was a real priority, that they were concerned to not diminish that too much. So whether it's a soccer field or a track, it's kind of inconsequential. They want a field area that was as much as possible for the kids.
We heard an awful lot of people say over and over again, when 800 students are playing, or even 400, you have no idea how crowded it gets out there. So, We did try to, and not to make it too long and skinny, you know, because as we go further back, we're into that really narrow triangular portion of the site, it becomes hard to supervise. Okay. These purple lines here are the pedestrian access routes to the campus, and we did adjust our drawing per Trustee Pace's well-made suggestion last 2 weeks ago, and we have added a sidewalk entry to this site. So now anybody coming from the walking street edges concurrent with the school will not have to cross any sort of driveways or vehicles to get onto the main part of the site and enter the school. There's a bicycle parking area here with the idea that the primary bicycle pathway will be here. That you can bring your bicycle across the campus. We could also put some additional bike racks on that side. Once the main gates here are closed, there's an entry through a lobby here for anybody entering the site that needs to check in. They enter into the lobby and they'll back out past the gate line. So there's a controlled entry once all the gates are locked. And then for after-hours use, there's a direct entry into the multipurpose room from here. There's also a breezeway entry, so if you wanted to open up the library or the multipurpose room or the amphitheater, but not necessarily open up the whole campus, you could access it through this breezeway circulation path there. We've got our courtyard amphitheater, the play areas that are directly off the outdoor lunch space, as well as additional blacktop and field space to the north side. We've got our two-story classroom wing here. It's basically got an east wing and a west wing. It's connected with a sort of a knuckle that's got a breezeway through it. You'll see later you get a nice sight line from the front of the school all the way through to the nature preserve. And we've got our little kinder courtyard here with their little play area. They have north-facing openness, so windows and doors on the north side that's protected on this internal courtyard, and then the south face here will have like limited windows, high windows only that aren't very big. They're not something that somebody could crawl through, break a window and crawl through. So it's a nice sheltered area with the correct sort of solar exposure to be under shade and not too hot as well. So these are the floor plans. You'll see that you can sort of orient yourself with regard to the site with this little bubble up in the top left. This is the ground floor of the classroom wing. You've got rows of classrooms here that flank the knuckle where we have an atrium and our lab spaces. The lab spaces have connections to the outdoor learning environments that support those activities. So the outdoor classroom or the outdoor patio space where they can expand the use of the lab. There's staff support. Restrooms. These restrooms here have an ability to be opened from the outside during recess. There's a double set of doors, one here and one here, and if you close this one and open this one, they could be outdoor restrooms. Even if you had an off-site group using your field and you wanted to open up the restrooms and not have porta potties on the campus, you could do that. Or they can be, the outer set of doors closed and then they're open to the internal circulation. We've got 3 stairwells, one on each end and one in the center, an elevator here in the center, and then some support spaces like custodial spaces, electrical rooms, etc. On the second floor, we have a single loaded corridor, so just one side has classrooms, and the corridor itself is enclosed. It's not an open-air breezeway, as we have proposed in the past. There's an outdoor patio space, which is a breakout space for the upper-level classrooms. And once again, staff support spaces, restrooms, your special ed classes as well. The kindergarten layout is a little L shape with a little staff support space right in the middle so that they maybe don't have to go running all over the campus to make a copy on a quick break. And each kindergarten room has a bathroom, a little toilet, and then the teachers have a joint shared prep space between each 2 classrooms. The admin library multi-use. So off on the right here, this is the admin with the lobby entry. This is the front gate. So you go in, talk to reception, go back out. You've got your breezeway access here with your multi-purpose space in the kitchen off here. This is sort of a large central support area with larger banks of bathrooms, MDF rooms. Your main structural infrastructure for the school is occurring in this area. On the second floor of this building, we have a library and a staff lounge with some patio space, which is essentially just the roof of the downstairs area below. And there's a little mezzanine area that overlooks the multipurpose. And I'm just breezing through these. I know you've seen them before, and we're running short on time, but stop if you have any questions. And now we get to the renderings of the school, which start here with your sort of, I guess, your main public view. If you're standing at if you're flying above the corner of Santa Teresa and Club, looking down at the campus, this is what you would see. This is that bus drop-off here. This is that main student drop-off here. This is Club. This is our admin multi-purpose and library building that you see from the corner. The kindergarten wing is here, and your classrooms are back here with the courtyard in the center. And we're going to zoom around to the right. We're going to progress counterclockwise.
One of the previous slides showed the western parking lot entrance lined up with Future Street, but this one shows them not lined up. Which is righter?
The site plan is more current than this. So that one where it's more lined up. Okay. I'll try to push the button in advance next time. So now we have a more up-close view, a worm's eye view, so to speak, ground level view of that admin multipurpose building, which I would say is your, public face of the school to Gilroy. And that's this view here. This is the admin. This up here is the library. And this over here is the multipurpose building. You can see there's that open breezeway where you can even see the courtyard through the breezeway. And here we are looking at the main entry. So drop off, walk through into the school. This is the kindergarten building with those limited windows that I was talking about. And then here's the admin down here with the library. And you can see the building sort of set back from the edge up atop. That's that patio space that is adjacent to the staff lounge. And you can see that it's nicely shaded from the large roof overhang. We're continuing in our path to the right here, and now we're at Uvis Creek and the roundabout at Club Drive in Grenache. And here we are looking at the kindergarten wing, and off to the right here is the two-story classroom wing. You can see the little atrium sticking up here. And this zone is that kindergarten play area, which you can see has this nice adjacency to the main courtyard, even though it's sort of tucked away a little bit.
And there was a question about the emergency access, which you can see here, that is on the right.
Goes all the way around.
It wraps around the whole building for emergency vehicles to get around.
And you could actually see it on the site plan as well. You can see the pathway around. You can see that also there's a gate line here, so there's a special, gate entry for the fire department that people can't just walk up to and walk past whenever they please. And we're continuing around to the right. Now we're at the north side or the back of the building part of the campus, and we're looking at the back side of the classrooms. And these are the north and east faces, so these are going to get the fabulous indirect sunlighting for the classrooms so that, they might not have to have the lights on hardly ever. And it's the little atrium sticking up. You can see we've put solar panels everywhere with the intent that you might be able to completely offset your annual electricity consumption.
Yeah, so the dark part of the roof are the solar panels.
You can see into the courtyard and the amphitheater here, so you can sort of see the relationship. It's sizable, the central space, but it's not so vast that you don't feel connected to the rest of the school. This little spot here is the outdoor observational classroom, science lab, outdoor science lab space. And we didn't model all the features, but and now we're in the same spot, but down at the ground level, looking at the back of the classroom wing. I know it's the back of the school, but it's actually one of my personal favorite looks of the school. I think the school looks very nice from the rear, as opposed to a sea of portables, for example. But I think that, the feeling that this rear part, where all the nature is actually part of the school, and it's part of learning, and it's enhances your experience being here. So we try to connect it all that way. We're now inside the courtyard, looking towards the kindergarten. So this on the right here, these three little pieces are the kindergarten classrooms. And then this building on the left is the edge of that two-story classroom wing. So you can see that you can see the kindergarten playground. It is connected. It's not, a little cloister hidden away. It's part of the school, but it's also its own place where people aren't just readily walking through. And now we're still standing in the courtyard, but looking back towards the multipurpose room and the amphitheater. So that's the outdoor stage off the back of the multipurpose room. This little spot here, that's that breezeway that takes you back through to the parking lot. This is the administration. In fact, right here, we've got the principal's office. And then up here is the library and the staff lounge. Mm-hmm. So that's...
And that's the last of the renderings, and that's the full picture of any questions you may have about next steps, or about the design, or about any of those elements.
Board members, any questions?
Questions or comments?
Yeah.
Comments?
No questions. This is
Okay.
great. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, wait.
I have a out in left field question. When, in the process, do we name this school? And when does it stop being New Elementary School and get a name?
Well, we have a board policy on
Yes.
how to name a school, so we would have to form a committee and have the committee come back and make a recommendation to the board. It's really up to the board whenever you want to do it.
Heights, please.
Oh, sorry. Do I have to say that again? Good. So it's really up to the board. I mean, we could put that on as a future agenda item, and the three of us could talk about when. Jim, the date for completion is,
Oh, Jim, go on.
Right now, it's August, or actually, we're going to be completed in June of 2020, and that'll give an extra about a month and a half, 2 months to get everybody in and get them used to it and how to operate.
All right, we're killing our videographer. Please use the microphones.
Sorry about that, yes. So June of 2020 is our target date, and then that'll give us July and August to move the furniture in, get the people in, teach them the systems and so on and so forth, and get them settled in before school actually starts.
so probably the year before, at least, I would
yeah.
say.
I-
We also have to have a discussion about boundaries. So that should occur at least a year before, so people know where their kids are going to go to school. And there are ways you can grandfather in the, current, say, Los Animas population and ease the boundary issue in for people.
So our intention is to break ground next summer, so that'll give you the window of opportunity. It's about a year and a half process, so,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, great. So, yes, Mr. Rosso.
I know we talked, extensively about the car traffic into the area. And one of the things I've been asking that we, as we look at not only the design of our new schools, but all our schools, is the pedestrian bike and walking routes to get us to the schools. And I think that we need to really do something more than what we're currently doing to partner with the city and do some assessment of the walking, biking routes to get to the schools. Because, I mean, initially, when we set up the neighborhood school concept, it was, we wanted to be able to make it possible for kids to walk or bike to school. But so many areas, and this is going to be a very challenging area for, because of Santa Teresa and because students are going to be across the street, is how you're going to get them, their own neighborhood is problematic in that the walkways don't hardly exist, bike routes or whatever. But the idea is, talking about strategies of how we're going to encourage and promote pedestrian walking and safe access to the schools. So I would like to see us, I realize that's probably beyond their scope of what they do, but the question is where does it fit in, as we talk about that. So I'm very interested in that. I know we did touch on a couple things like where the signage and that type of thing for the school, where you might propose to do that kind of thing, because that would be nice there. This school is going to have cameras, or it's not going to have cameras throughout? I forgot.
It will have cameras, yes.
Okay, fine. All right, thank you.
Okay, yes, trustee
I'm
Pizarro.
assuming that we can't really get serious about walking routes to this school until we have the attendance area set, so we know where kids are coming from.
Well, we know for sure the Heartland neighborhood will go to the school, and the good news is they already have a really nice system of bike paths that go under Santa Teresa, so, there really isn't an excuse for driving your kid from there, but let me tell you, they will. Even because the bike path over there is really nice. It's gonna go almost all the way out to the 152 when they finish. It's already a mile out already. I ride it regularly.
Well, I think all of these topics are for future agenda items, and I did write that down because we do have, but our job right now is to either approve or disapprove the bridging document by WLC Architect. That's what we need to do tonight.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this bridging.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second on approving the bridging document by WLC Architects. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, this motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great.
I just wanted to say something is, I really appreciate the work that was done by our staff here, and I really think we got a great plan here because that's a very difficult site and a very challenging, and quite frankly, I think we got something to feel pretty good about. It's a well-designed site.
I agree. It's kind of amazing. I was thinking on the way home the other day, how did we get to this point? But this schematic really sums it up,
Yes.
what we've gone through to get even to this point. But getting all those ideas together finally into this plan is pretty exciting. So thank you very much.
It's been our pleasure, by the way, too. This has been a great process for us. Working with you has been a great team that we've had to work with, and the board, and so we're looking forward to continuing this with you as we go into the next phase of the project with the design build team.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Gina, I don't know how we're doing on your time, but we blew it? Okay. So we're going to move on to 8B, ratification of contract increase with Hexagon Transportation Consultants for the operational traffic study for the new school property.
We're just continuing on with
We're just going to go down with mine.
we're going through the facilities agenda,
Yeah.
Jim and Dan.
Right.
Give you a break.
This is the only birthday present you're going to get from us. We moved you up to the top of the agenda.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
There we go. Thank you very much. Yeah, so the
Thanks.
the ratification of the increase with Hexagon Transportation Consultants, they came back to us with the original study, and we realized that the results were not very favorable. And one of the reasons they came back not favorable was because we used Los Animas as one of our schools to match up to this school. Unfortunately, Los Animas is mostly a drive-in school, and this is going to be, for the most part, a walk-in school. So we had to step back, take a look at it again, and say, we need to use a walk-in school. So we adjusted the counts to the El Roble School, which is quite a bit more. It's a neighborhood school and quite a bit better case study than the one we had. Those are going on right now. Obviously, we wanted to capture those at the beginning of school. So we had to give them the authorization and bring this as a ratification. So we will get, hopefully we'll get our study back here shortly, and it'll be, mostly in the favor of the district as far as any kind of mitigations that we'll have to do in the future.
Okay, so this is an action item. I'll entertain a motion. This is ratification of contract with Hexagon Transportation.
So move.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Okay, moving on to C, approval of contract increase with Belli Architectural Group for the Rod Kelly Elementary School Fire Alarm Low Voltage Project.
Yes, as this project spanned 2 years, about a year ago, we knew that we were going to be looking at a contract increase of sorts for several items. One had to do with the rebidding process. Another one had to do with some engineering processes. I did mention this to the board about a year ago and said, we can bring these now or we can bring them all at once at the end, because we knew there were going to be parts to it. So we went ahead and brought these at the end. So this is the increase for that increased scope of work for the architect for the Rod Kelly project. Once again, because it spanned 2 years, and there was a lot of there was a rebid and a lot of engineering changes.
Okay, do you want to go on and do D through I,
Yes.
and then we'll go back and vote
Do
on
them all,
these?
sure.
Good.
The next one is ratification of contract with E.J. Bauman Incorporated. That was for the installation of the emergency management system in the new portables that we moved for the phase 1 of the new math building. That work was not included in the scope of the project. That had to be done outside of the project. E.J. Bauman is our EMS specialist. They had to go back in and they had to reroute and run conduits, wires, et cetera, to get the EMS system back into the portables where we could operate the air conditioning remotely and make sure it turns off in the evening and turns back on in the morning, so.
Okay, yes, we have a question.
Why wasn't that put in the beginning?
As it
Up
turns
front?
out, this particular architect, yeah, and that's a good question. This particular architect does not do any diagramming for the EMS system, the camera system, or the intrusion alarm systems. And this is the first time I've ever seen this, and we would not have been aware of that because we've never seen this before in all the time that we've been doing this. So we did go for phase 2, which is the new building. We brought in an expert, which is TSC, and TSC actually drew it for us, sat down with the architects, and then moved that into the plans. But you
We
learn
just
something new every year. We were blindsided. We've never seen this before, and with a group as big as LPA, it was really a shock. So it is, it would have been, if it would have been in the project, it would have been the same price. So it's value added. Just unfortunately, it's something strange that we've never seen.
Okay. Moving on to E, this is the Ernie's Plumbing for the installation of sinks in 2 classrooms at Gilroy Prep.
You can do it.
Good evening, Dr. Flores, President Midgard School Board. I have items E through I, and the first is Ernie's Plumbing installation of sinks at 2 classrooms at GPS. We were asked by GPS, their facilities director, to guide them to find 3 contractors or better approved contractors in the district that they would like to approach about installing 2 sinks in 2 of the classrooms, actually a sink in each classroom of 2. We gave them quite a list. They were only able to obtain 1 bid for adding sinks in the 2 classrooms, and that was Ernie's Plumbing. They will be paying the entire cost of this. The district will not be paying any of the cost, and we do not provide the maintenance for these sinks that they will be adding. So they asked that we bring this to you for approval. Item F
I
is.
have a question
Sure.
on that. So when you say they are paying for it, it's not a cost to the district? Don't they get their money from us? So aren't we
Well,
essentially paying it?
Well, they're direct funded, so the money their funds go directly to them. It's
Right.
up to them how to spend it out of their budget.
I'm just saying it,
yeah, this is their discretionary, and
yeah, but it still comes through us,
Mm-hmm.
so we are paying for it.
yes, as a matter of fact, yes, we are.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. The next item is approval of contract with Field Turf USA for the Advanced Care Program on the Gilroy High turf. This is the same program that you approved for Christopher High that has been very successful. It's helped extend the life of our turfs, keep them in much better, safer playing condition, cleaner. We have this service twice a year right now at Christopher High. We'll be coming back to you probably middle of the year to get another approval for Christopher, but I'd like to start the same program at Gilroy High. That turf is, 2 years old now? And our guys do an amazing job of maintaining those fields with the equipment they have, but this is something that, it's like a deep cleaning of the turf. It repositions the infill, recompacts it, cleans it. It's a very good service, and I think it's worthwhile to put in. It's $6,000 for 2 services, and we get a written report of the conditions of the fields.
Nice.
Next item is approval of contract with ThyssenKrupp Elevator Corporation for an emergency lowering system installed at the 3 elevators at Christopher High. This issue came up when we had the power outages last winter. In fact, it was brought up at the EOC when we were down without power. There was an issue at Christopher High, and I was told, or I was asked to look into the systems in place at Christopher High and if there was any kind of emergency lowering or backup power. Unfortunately, there's not a system available to have backup power, battery power, where the elevator can operate up and down in the event of an emergency or a power outage. This system only allows, if we have a power outage for that elevator, that if it's on the 2nd story or the 1st floor, it'll go down to the 1st floor. If it's not already there, the doors will open. They will remain open until the system is restored and the elevator is reset.
Nice.
So our other 2 schools that have elevators, Elliott and Los Animas, do have this system in place.
Question?
With this, every elevator in the district will be,
We'll have this system.
And can we assume, I'm sorry, I'm going backwards, that the new elementary school is going to have this? Thank you.
And there might be other systems available for the elevators of today that
Sure.
are not able to be retrofitted onto this one. But this will be the same type system that is in place in Elliott and Los Angeles. But I do want to make it clear that it's not going to allow somebody to get on the elevator and go down. If you happen to be in the elevator, it'll lower you down and the door will open. So that'll prevent somebody from being trapped in the elevator and having to be extracted by the fire department.
Are these going to be, is this device going to be on the elevators that we're putting in at the addition at Gilroy High School?
Yes, it's a mandatory.
How long has it been mandatory?
Only for the last couple of years, from what I understand.
Okay, so the architect, when we built Christopher High, should have probably considered that, means the 2 older schools have it, but he wasn't mandated to.
I agree.
Okay.
Next item is approval of contract with Prism View and ASAP Signs for the replacement of the Christopher High entrance marquee. Paul can attest to the fact that the marquee at Christopher High has not functioned properly since probably February
Everyone in the
this year.
city can attest to that?
We've had several vendors out, which Paul can attest to try to repair this thing. We have spent some money with some hopeful repairs that just weren't effective. We did get the factory authorized rep out there, and they did give us a price to repair the existing board of, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it was $14,000 or $15,000, which we'd still have that generation of board, which they have a lot of problems with, the controllers they have, the software they have problems. So we approached OES, which has replaced some of our scoreboard signs and has done some other marquee work, and we got a price for them to replace the board with a new board. It's a double-sided board, has about 30% better resolution, better software, better capability of programming. So that ended up being, I don't have it in front of me here, I think 16,000 something. So I think it's money much better spent to replace the board than to repair what's there.
I have a question.
Yes.
First of all, I agree with you. I mean, it's like $1,300 or $1,400 more and we get a new board. Do we have any other boards from that company in the district?
No, we don't.
Good, thank you. Of course. It's okay.
Last item is approval of purchase for some electrical equipment, electrical fixtures for the Christopher High Pool. We've had an issue out there and a request from the site to look at adding additional lighting to the pool area because some of their events at night run into the evening, and it's a safety issue. Currently, they're renting portable tower lights that light up the area. We did ask our electrician to go out and evaluate the existing poles and power situation. There's 4 poles, and it's in your packet. I think we have them circled in the corners that are in the corners of the pools. Our electrician went to Consolidated Electric, spoke with their lighting consultant, and they came up with a good solution, I think, to retrofit those existing poles with dual flood LED lights for a minimal cost. It would be quite expensive to add new lighting and poles and towers to that area. So I think this is a very good solution. Our electrician can install them with help, probably within a couple days, and have this in place.
Dan, in your report, I think you said something about getting additional, we'd have to go to DSA.
Oh, yeah. If we put new tower
Right.
poles, yeah, absolutely.
So my question is, because DSA has sticky
Not for this.
fingers and everything.
This is basically a
But,
maintenance.
so changing lights, they don't
Changing a
care?
light fixture, no, we do not have to
Okay.
submit to DSA for that. Any other questions?
Yes.
You know, for years, Gilroy High schools has been asking for the same thing and was always told there's no money. All of a sudden, we have money for Christopher, but not for Gilroy High.
I haven't had that request for Gilroy High, but we can certainly look into it.
You did when I was a pool tech.
We can look into it.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and vote for these. I don't believe we voted for the ones that,
We voted, we voted for A, B, and A.
Move to approve items 8C through 8I.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
We have a ratification.
We have one ratification, so we'll have to do roll call.
No.
Sorry,
No,
We voted
it's
for
not a
B.
resolution.
not a
You like dog?
ratification.
D as in dog says ratification of.
I know, but that's okay. It's
No
not a
resolution.
resolution.
Oh, sorry.
It already happened.
Thank you, resolution, not ratification.
Okay, we're confused on our Rs. Okay, here we go. So I think we can go with the motion in the second that we have. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. All of these pass. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes. Okay, now we're going to go back to 7. And the first item in 7 is the 2018 School Board Campaign. 4 GUSD Board of Education seats will be open for the 2018 November election. Board members will discuss plans for informing community members and recruiting future board members. It's vitally important that school board candidates understand the depth of commitment required to effectively fulfill the school board role. And it's equally important that voters pay attention to the citizens they select to oversee their schools, the governing board members to whom they entrust their children and tax dollars. And in the comments, thank you, Gina, for adding these. California serves more than 6 million students, the largest public school system in the nation with the most diverse student body. Each school district is governed by a school board that is accountable for the performance of schools in their district. They represent the community's diverse beliefs and values, and in California, over 5,000 school board members govern more than 1,000 school districts. So, you know, if we just leave it to chance, sometimes we have a very shallow pool. Other years, there've been 8 candidates running for the board. We just want to be sure the information gets out there. So Linda and I met and put together a plan, which is included in your packet. It's not all the how are we going to do, but it is the what, that we have some time. If we start on this in January, we should be able to have most of our meetings done by April. We'll have another chance to have a meeting in April. We stayed away from May and June just because you know how May and June are. We're just, there are so many commitments in those 2 months. People who are seriously considering running have to file by August. So if we all work together on this, we should be able to get the word out in a fairly organized manner. So Linda and I are on this ad hoc committee, and we would love to have one more person that would help us on this, because there's a lot to put together in order to do this. Jaime? You're interested? Anybody else? Well, it's okay. You can do a lot of the work sitting down. It's okay.
All right.
No. James?
I could do it, but, I mean, whatever. Jaime's
Yeah.
probably a better choice.
No, I'm not necessarily the better choice.
You know more people.
Well, I mean, we're all gonna work on it.
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
mean, we're all gonna work on it. I think I like the plan.
Okay.
I like what you came up with. I think it's good that we're being proactive and not just gonna, whoever happens to show up, that we, or not.
Or not? Yeah.
So that we make sure we got a good field of candidates. I
Good.
think that's really important. We wanna make sure we continue our progress and what's going on, and as we transition with a lot of new board members.
Yeah, and to get the word out, I don't think a lot of people understand what the board does, how we do it, so. Yeah,
I spoke with some different people about getting words out in the community and how they've approached it in the past, and they said getting tables at events. Any school event you have, having a table. Any community event that involves community awareness, like this walk that's coming up next weekend, having a table, a school board table. And it does sometimes require a purchase of a table to support the event. But, and I don't know if those kinds of funds exist, but I am happy to sit at tables and spread the word about the work that's done in the district and the needs that we have and the people who might, just because otherwise we're talking to the same groups of people who are already involved and already taxed and spending a lot of their time and resources in schools
very good point.
as it is. I'd like to reach out to the greater community, people who haven't yet had the opportunity to be involved in the schools.
And Heather is something to watch.
Heather is a what?
Heather is something to watch at community events.
Force of nature.
Yes.
okay,
I would
great.
be delighted to work on that aspect too, so.
Okay, good. Well, I think you're all right. We're all gonna be involved in this, and we're glad that you approved these preliminary plans. And we haven't thought of everything. Here's another suggestion that we hadn't thought about, so that's great. So Jaime, you wanna be the third person on this ad hoc committee?
Yes, I'm willing to be that.
Great.
Jaime needs help, you can call me.
All y'all need our help and we'll help.
Yeah, we're all in this. Everybody will be doing their part, so.
Okay. Then I think that's all that we have to do then for that.
Thank you.
So item 7B is the second reading of updates to board policies.
I want to publicly thank Gina Kaufman for doing hours of research. After the first reading, you had a lot of questions, and she did an amazing job of compiling, responding to your questions, and then compiling a lot of really useful information and getting it out to you in advance. So I want to thank her. It was a lot of work. And she's our resident expert on board policies.
That means she can never leave.
No, it means we can hire her back. Consultant.
A consultant, yeah.
Right.
All right,
You've got
so,
a future in retirement, consultancy.
okay, this is an action item, so are there any further comments or questions about the work that Gina has done for us?
Yeah, other cabinet members, of
Sorry,
course,
and other
responded
cabinet
too.
members.
You saw some of their
Yeah.
responses to particular board policy items, so everybody contributed to this. And by the way, the next group is coming soon, because then we'll actually be caught up.
Will we?
We will. No, so actually gave a deadline of tomorrow, and I have the bulk of them, so I guess I'm gonna have to figure out how to get it done for my own deadline.
Is that just one 3-month, or is it,
It's July.
It's July,
Yeah.
so it's just one
Yes.
chunk?
there's
Yes.
maybe a dozen.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the reason for getting it done by tomorrow was to get it to the two of you to review, so. Oh, good grief. Okay, we gotta get this done.
All right, so any specific questions or comments? Otherwise, we're gonna move ahead on this.
The only comment I have is with all the way at the end, BB 9012D, I'm going to need a district email account to comply with this. And I don't have one.
So we can get you one for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. So this is an action item. Motion, second.
Move approval?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, this motion passes. Thank you. And then? Moving on to 9, which is board members' reports. Yes.
Along with Dr. Flores, Leonard Pacino, and Mr. Pace, we attended Glenview's open house, which was, well, I think well received. I really like the way they set it up, so if you have multi-students at the school, you can catch both teachers. And then that following Thursday, I went to Rutgers open house, which was very well received at a portion of it. They had a taco truck, which the parents really seemed to like. And it was quite interesting throughout the night. And I've been going to a lot of Christopher High volleyball games, and, oh, I'm sorry. With the student parking lot closed down, it was kind of a mess getting in and out of the schools and everything, but the cooperation of everybody involved, parking, driving, being careful of the students, everything, was very good. I mean, I saw no incidents at all for I think the 4 times I've been out there already. And the parking lot is almost done, so that'll help a lot.
Any other reports? Yes, Mr. Page, sorry.
I also have attended several back-to-school nights, Solorzano, Rod Kelly, and Glenview. Things are going very smoothly at the sites. There are a couple questions here and there that I've sent on to the superintendent, and thank you for starting to get responses back to me. I am a member of the Gilroy General Plan Advisory Committee, and that process is, we've had 2 meetings since it's restarted, and the last one was they brought in a panel of experts to talk about housing issues in the city. It was very interesting and well-attended. And somebody alluded to it, but the walk in the park, the city is having, is that this Saturday at 10 o'clock at the Gilroy Sports Park, and that's a community-wide fun walk event, so I encourage everyone to go.
Be there at
And Mark was gonna get us shirts.
And Mark's getting me a shirt, right? 9:30, and we're at this park itself, okay.
Any other reports? Yes.
In addition to Glenview, I went to Elliott and Las Animas's back-to-school night. Well, that's not quite true. I went to one grade level, and I have to say, Elliott and Las Animas do, kudos to those principals, because they do grade level every night, different nights. And it's a lot of work for principals. Teachers only have to go to one, principal has to go to 6. But it is very, especially at Elliott, because it was in the library, it's very intimate, and it was a great feeling. I think parents are much more comfortable, and Q&A is more prominent, and they have a lot of people out there with services, and I kudos to those principals for setting it up that way. It's a lot of work.
All the principals seem to be on top of it this year, doing a very good job.
Okay, any other items? Okay, if not, we'll move ahead to number 10, upcoming and new referral agenda items. Is there something that you would like us to put on our future calendars for consideration?
You've got naming the elementary school.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about it in executive team if.
I have a question. Did the joint use of the triangle area for the new school, did that get put on the agenda somewhere?
Joint use of the new school, sorry.
Right.
I was writing.
I had brought up the suggestion that we talk to the city about a possible joint use agreement for the field areas at the new school.
And we were going to talk to the mayor and city administrator, but the meeting got canceled.
Okay,
We do have it coming up next Tuesday morning.
well, the reason I'm asking is we did have it on future agenda items and it's since disappeared,
Oh.
but it hasn't appeared anywhere else.
Sorry. Yeah, we were gonna, our plan was to talk to the, city administrator and mayor and propose a joint use agreement.
Well, Maybe the appropriate time would be if you are you going to have an occasion to talk with them?
Tuesday morning.
Oh, yeah, because we have our joint meeting coming up later this
Right.
month.
Right,
So that might be a good place to plug it in.
good idea. Yeah, we're gonna be planning our joint meeting at next Tuesday's meeting, so your timing's great. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Rosso?
Las Animas, what do you call it? The student count for Las Animas is in excess of 800, is that correct?
Alvaro would be better at that than me. What's the count at Los Animas right now?
I think it's 770 now.
But
It
it's-
opened at 800 and change the first day, but
But-
there was a lot of
And the
fluctuations.
capacity?
They still have 6 empty classrooms right now.
Right, yeah,
So, okay,
you
Yep.
need it.
right, because,
Alexander Place opens
and how many students are we projecting for
elementary.
Total?
Alexander Place? I'm curious.
That's low. According to the demographer's projection, then the student generation rate is 70 in total. I think that's low.
That might be.
No, 70 in total
subject
for
of
the entire development.
conversation. That,
Right, that's low.
That'd be more than that.
I think,
I think it's gonna be more than that,
Right.
but we'll
Right.
know in, February?
but we have,
They've already.
but I mean, even, I guess my question is, are we going to have any issues concerning housing in other words, with the classroom space that we have? Do we have sufficient classroom space?
Well, our plan always has been to fill up Los Animas, and then
Right.
we have space for 3 portables at Glenview. So if Los Animas fills up, that's what we'll be doing until the new elementary school opens.
Right.
And we've talked about potentially moving some of the Gilroy High portables over to the pad at Glenview if we need it. You know, that's been the plan all along. We're hoping that we have the new elementary school done before we exceed the capacity of Los Animas.
Right.
And
So-
there are, I've mentioned this several times before, we do have special programs at Los Animas that if necessary, we can move them. Our migrant students are housed at Los Animas. We bus them, so if we need to move them in order to, house students, then that would be a consideration.
Okay, well, I guess my, in other words, when we talk about agenda items, it seems to me that this, it's probably timely to start having some of those conversations, particularly since there's a lot of unknowns here, in the context of the Alexander Place, for example. Of course, you're saying 75 students is what they're projecting.
That's what Tom Williams told us.
Oh, right. So
Yeah.
what are we talking about? There are 3, 4 classrooms, and we have 6.
We're
Is that
kind of getting into
Yeah.
a discussion,
Yeah, we'd
which
have
we
to
can't
put
do
that on
now.
the
So
agenda.
you want this as an agenda item?
Well,
Is that what you're
I
requesting?
think,
Take to
well, I
executive?
mean, at what point, where would we cover this, Debbie? Where would be the appropriate?
I think I'd rather wait till we see how many kids we get from Alexander Place. That's such a big question mark now, and I guess they're opening in January or February. Because right now, we have to rely on Tom Williams' demographic information, which has been very reliable.
And we are working with a developer. AJ is my direct contact with them, and they're sharing information. And as soon as December, January, they'll release grade level information if they have it, so that we can be better prepared for staffing and get to that granular level that we'll need for capacity conversations. So we'll get that data. It's just not available right now. All they have is a waiting list that it's approximately 3,000, they say, but we haven't seen any of that yet. They still have to go through the qualification process of all those things, sort them out, figuring out who's actually going to live there. And then we figure out, okay, what grade levels do they have, how many kids. These range from, apartments from 1 bedroom to 3 bedrooms.
So,
To forward,
I want to
May I
make a suggestion, because
suggest?
we're definitely veering into agenda item topic. So, we can come and tell you what we know. Like, for, another factor is that Glen Loma has slowed down phase 2. Those are, and again, I don't want to start talking about an item that's not on the agenda. So we could put an item on the agenda that we just share what we know
Right.
about the demographics.
Okay.
And probably in November, December.
Yeah, we could do it anytime between now and then, just share what we know. We are going to a meeting in the morning where we're going to be hearing directly from the developer, I guess, at the chamber meeting. Is it tomorrow morning? Or next Friday morning? No, it's coming up. It's tomorrow morning. It's 7:30, and the,
Surprise.
Gina just checked. It is tomorrow morning.
Are you still going to the facilities walkthrough?
This is at 7:30 in the morning.
Oh, before that?
So the Chamber of Commerce Government Relations Committee has invited, is it the developer, Alvaro? To come speak to the committee, and I believe that's on tomorrow morning's agenda. We just checked on their website. So we're going to get to hear directly from them what they have to say about this project, and maybe we'll learn some more useful information that we can report out to you after we hear it.
Okay,
But this feels like an agenda item.
it does. So we have
So
to,
we should schedule it.
Facilities
Right.
walk in the morning.
so we'll talk about it next week in
Yeah.
our executive meeting.
We
Okay.
do have a facilities walkthrough in the morning at 9, and we're all meeting, anyone who wants to go, at the front parking lot at Gilroy High at 9.
I have an item that I would like to put on a future, I don't know whether it's going to be an agenda item, or you could answer it offline, or, I have a lot of questions about field trips that are supposedly not under the umbrella of Gilroy Unified School District, and yet the employees, the people who are with the students, are Gilroy Unified School District. I would just like some clarification on this, because I went to the Brownell Holman School Club meeting the other night. I was invited to come, so I went, and it was, it's just an interesting topic that we're going to pay for it out of this pocket. It has nothing to do with the district. So this is not under the umbrella of the district, and yet there are students and it's our teachers, and so I would
This
like.
is a topic we had a lot of legal advice on a couple of years ago, so
Okay.
I'll be happy to remind everyone
Okay,
that if the field trip doesn't include everybody at that school,
well,
it's a major issue, and we got some really good legal advice on that. So if it's only for those who can afford to go, that has to be an independent, apart from the school district field trip. And I'll be happy to dig that up, but our legal counsel gave us several opinions on this 2 or 3 years ago.
okay,
And we've been I would say district office has been very consistent in our advice to sites about this, that if it's a trip, for instance, to Yosemite during April break and only 50 of the students at that grade level are going, it can't be a district-sponsored field trip.
right,
So it's an equity and access issue. That was a big issue 8, 9 years ago, where, literally during the school day, we were taking kids to a science camp who could afford to go and leaving 100 kids behind who couldn't. And that's the equity access issue that we are wrestling with.
I think the issue is, it sounds like perhaps that policy is being circumvented by classifying it as a non-district activity.
right. So only certain kids are gonna,
Right.
again, we're kind of back where we were before, so.
Right?
I would just like some
it's a big-
clarification, please.
It's a issue that I'd be happy to start by finding Mary's advice and sharing it with you first.
Okay. Thank you. Jaime?
Last time we were at the Gilroy High School, we saw that there were needs at the pool
Yes.
area. Is
Are we talking about that tomorrow? Sorry.
is that part of our agenda for our facilities? No, the pool, the Gilroy High pool. Okay.
There's some
because
work that needs to be
I'm-
done.
I would like to make sure that we're moving forward with what needs to be done.
The new tile that we just put in.
And let's see, what else? That was the last thing.
Something else, Jaime?
That's it, yeah, for right now.
That's it?
You gotta-
Okay, anything else? So announcements, the next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be held on Thursday, September 21st. Closed session will be held at 5:30, followed by a study session at 6, and open session at 7. The agenda will be available on the district's website by 5 PM on Friday, September 15th, 2017. With that, the meeting is adjourned.